Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to unlock scale quickly in your agency or B2B company. And we're going to be talking about value stacking and proper budget allocation. I really don't see much of this content out here on YouTube. And this is so important. The reason I'm making this video is because so many marketing agencies, service providers, B2B companies that I speak to on Twitter, LinkedIn, get on sales calls with are at 20% margin or lower. And it's basically one of the most common objections that I get when I try to sell them lead generation services. You know, it's kind of, we can't justify the marketing spend and so on and so forth. And this is really unacceptable in terms of unit economics, because really, if you're not doing a multi-8-figure run rate, you should be hitting a 40-50% margin in this day and age with all the tools you have and the access information that you have around this. Essentially, the red paragraph right here is also very important, I think. There's too many business owners that either try to productize their service before they have something that is even worth productizing right there. So basically way undercutting prices for the sake of productization, or they're on the other end of the spectrum where they're doing far too much custom work and they don't productize, which is why in both cases they can't end up scaling. And this is really sort of the doom spiral with service-based businesses and agencies in particular. So 99% of business owners really fall into one of these two categories. And I'm going to talk about in this video how to fix that. So essentially the first point is you need to solve more problems and charge higher prices. So just going to make sure you can see this. Yeah. So the problems that your average customer faces, this is specifically in B2B, well, they can't generate enough profits to make sense of running their business. Why is this? Working from the front to the back, they can't generate enough lead flow, firstly. They can't get the leads to show up. Then they can't get those leads to close. Then they can't deliver a good enough experience or service to retain those clients for the long run, right? Over 6 months, and basically they have a high churn. So in essence, you as any type of marketing agency or lead generation agency or any type of B2B company that specializes in sales, growth, or operations consulting, if you're trying to scale your partner's business, essentially, your client's business, you get paid in proportion to how many of these problems you solve, firstly, and secondly, how effectively you solve each of those problems. So I've mentioned this diagram before, but it just perfectly explains what I'm talking about. So this is the infamous gym launch example with Alex Hormozi and how he scaled gym launch and pivoted really from a standard gym marketing agency charging 1 to 2K per month to customers to charging 15, 16K upfront with a back-end retainer, and scaled that to thousands and thousands of customers and basically dominated the market. Sold it to American Pacific Group for some $46 million, and Gym Launch at the time, I think we're doing about $100 million a year in top line revenue. And this is essentially the model that he followed. This is the same model. It doesn't matter if he's Alex Hormozi or whatever. It's the same model applies, and you can apply this literally straight from the get-go, even if you're just starting out. And it's so important to understand, right? And this is why the traditional SMMA model or whatever is broken to an extent. So if you're sort of, the standard marketing agency and you're only providing leads, you will always have a low pricing power because you're only providing leads or maybe even calls to, well, not even calls, just mostly leads. Most agencies just provide leads, to be honest. And that's why you can never charge more than $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month. However, when you bridge the full gap of what the kind of your target prospect really needs to be sold. So for example, you're helping them with differentiating and their product, you're helping them with reallocating budget, you're helping them with lead gen, you're helping them with getting those appointments booked in and showing up, you're helping them with sales, you're helping them even with fulfillment, or at least consulting on these things. You can see how then it's very easy for you to command a much higher price, premium pricing in the market. You go to the same market and charge much higher prices, collect cash up front. So there's the current situation, there's a desired situation. And really, the picture explains 1,000 words, right, as they say, or whatever. Essentially, charging high ticket for solving all of these problems allows you to charge much higher, 3, 5K, 10K, whatever market you're in. Obviously, this is niche dependent. And really the gold standard is collecting 40 to 50% cash up front if you do want to scale predictably with a scalable appointment booking system, right? Which is either ads or cold outreach in combination with content. So, what am I talking about here? Well, it's basically adopting a full funnel approach. It's basically the concept of what we call vertical segment scaling. This is how the largest agencies in the world have scaled. They pinpoint one niche and rinse out one vertical at a time, right? So one vertical, one profitable market segment at a time, and rinse that out before pivoting to the next vertical. And the way they do that, so you target one niche and you become the best or strive to be a superior solution in that niche by adopting a full funnel approach to your service delivery, right? So like I said, the agencies and service-based businesses that end up scaling are the ones that are able to charge premium prices and do so with a marginal cost of replication. Now, I'm not going to go into marginal cost of replication and productization in this exact video because that is a more complex thing, probably for another video. But this video is going to be talking about really the first part of all this, which none of this works unless you're charging high prices up and collecting cash up front. And there's a lot of limiting beliefs, I think, here. For example, people think that you can only charge, $2,000 or $3,000 a month to real estate, when that's not the case. There are people that are charging $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month. There are people that are collecting cash up front, charging realtors, real estate agents with their product, right? It's simply just a case of positioning yourself and showcasing your value properly, and essentially not positioning yourself as a standard agency. A standard agency service will always be perceived as a I don't want to say commodity, because part of having a service-based business, it means that you are a commodity anyway, and that's not a bad thing. But the way you position yourself as superior is kind of almost saying that you're not an agency, you're a full stack, you're a partner, or you're a consultant, you're a full stack consulting firm, as opposed to just an agency, right? Even though they really mean the same thing, the way you market and position yourself is very important on the front end. So when you're able to charge premium prices, we do so because we can bridge as much of the gap between our customers' current state and their ideal state as possible. Like I said, you get paid in proportion to how many problems you solve and how effectively you solve each of those problems. And then is the whole thing around, once you've got that dialed down on the front end, now we can talk about productization. And this is the famous quote by the co-founder of Airbnb, which is, we do what doesn't scale first, then worry about productization. So this is the way to play the game. So if you're watching this training, you are likely already, someone who has a great skill set. You've gotten client results, which is amazing. You just might maybe need to add even more value to charge even higher prices. Or it might be the case that you're already at the stage of you're collecting great cash up front. You might just need to some help productizing your offer, which I'll roll out more trainings on in the future. Depending on what time you're watching this, it might already be out. Oftentimes it's the case that a business has to revisit their deliverables to improve their value proposition. I've seen this time and time again, and allow them to scale to the next level. So I see a lot of agencies who are at 50K per month, 100K per month, 200K per month, and they have hit that ceiling because they have not kind of addressed the kind of elephant in the room, which is they actually need to improve their product before they can actually scale to the next level. Huge topic there. I'll get into that in different videos. And yeah, there's a lot more to come when it comes to this topic in particular. So essentially, high prices, more cash up front, more scale means you win. And what does this mean primarily? Well, there are a lot of benefits to doing this, obviously, but a primary one that I want to talk about is you get to pump that straight back into ad spend or top line marketing. Now, this is what we call client financed acquisition. And essentially revolved around the fact of, whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins, right? So picture two agencies here. Let's say you're going after home improvement companies. One agency charges 1.5K per month and is barely making any profit. They're not in a position to provide more than just a simple lead generation service and hire mediocre talent because of that, because they're barely making any money. They don't have any funds to spend on ads or invest in any type of active marketing. And so they're stuck in this flywheel of praying for referrals and relying on warm network leads to keep their business afloat. There's no predictability there and no strategy for scale. The other one goes to the same market, and they've designed this kind of full stack, full funnel approach offer. They go to the same market, charge 4K per month. Not only do they charge 4K per month, but through superior selling, they come to the sales call prepared and they collect 16K up front, or at least 40 to 50% of that number up front. So they collect anywhere from 6 to 8 grand up front. What does this mean? Well, firstly, they do this because they provide a premium service, and it also allows them to fulfill on a premium service on the back end. Because they can, I'm going to get into this in a second, they can afford to hire better talent, they can do more for their clients and not just generate leads, but they can, for example, afford to partner up with a call center or even hire and place a setter. They can do more done-for-you services, essentially do more for the same client, right? So this kind of positive flywheel that's happening. They also immediately pump back in 20% of all top-line cash collected into a predictable client acquisition system, right? This could be ads, this could be cold email, whatever is working for you and whatever you have defined and identified as a scalable appointment booking system for your business. Usually it's going to be ads most of the time. And what this allows you to do, or allows them to do, in this example, is sell 10 to 20 units per month on the front end, on top of the retainers that they're collecting on the back end, and they blitz their way to 200K per month in a matter of a few months. They easily hire out A players to keep their business running because they can actually justify paying better talent, better people going to use their initiative and don't need instruction 24/7. Because, A players, they know what they're worth and they're not going to be working, for really less than 5K per month, 10K per month, and depending on what role that you're asking for. And ultimately, they're at a 50% margin or more. And even with a 20 to 25% continual reinvestment into their marketing, 50% margin, so half of that's going into marketing, half of that is going into labor and OPEX. And so you have 50% profit. Right, that's net cash, and that's kind of basically yours to do with what you please. Of course, after paying the tax man, right? Unless you live in Dubai. So obviously, who do you think wins? Obviously, it's very clear. The other sort of, there's numerous benefits to what I've just described. You get to hire better talent, as I've just said, which leads to better client results. You do more for your clients. So this is vertical stacking of your services. Vertical stacking versus horizontal is very important to distinguish. So for example, vertical stacking means you solve more of your target customers' problems, right? If I offer you, for example, LinkedIn lead gen, Twitter lead gen, and cold email and ads, it doesn't really add much value because I'm sort of doing the same thing. They all serve the same function. However, if I choose one lead generation system, let's say ads, and then I help you also with done for you creative, done for you copywriting, done for you funnel building, done for you appointment setting, done for you sales, by partnering up with someone, I'm solving I'm solving a ton of your problems. I'm basically solving the entire client acquisition issue for you, right? And that's really the gold standard. If you can do that for your clients as well, you can see how people would charge way more for that. And pay way more for that. You also get to invest in better tools, better software, team experiences, community, via retreats, client retreats, gifts, masterminds, all this kind of stuff. Just leads to a much better company, right? Which is ultimately essentially how you scale. I'm going to finish off with budget allocation. Now, this is strictly for if you're entering a growth phase in your company. These are the numbers you need to stick to if you're trying to scale your agency or B2B business. Which is essentially like a profit and loss review. Profit and loss meaning this is not the thing that you show your accountant. It's just a kind of separate spreadsheet, worksheet for financial due diligence on, okay, where's my money going and am I adhering to these ratios more or less? And if I'm not, then let's kind of trim down here. Let's add to this other section here. So essentially the core metrics you want to hit, 20 to 25% top line reserved for marketing and advertising. If you're not able to scale, it's probably because of this. And it probably boils down to the fact that you don't have a 50% net margin, because 20 to 25% is going to be labor. Like I said, you don't want to skimp out on labor, obviously, because, the better talent that you hire, the more you pay them, the better results you're going to get. In terms of budget allocation when it comes to labor, we've got fulfillment at 9-10%. I mean, this kind of varies a little bit depending on industry, but more or less, fulfillment is the largest allocation. Then comes sales, then comes finance and legal, then comes operations. Nowadays, I mean, you can easily scale to 200K plus per month with a really good fractional operator, fractional CTO, someone who's really good with automations and data systems integration, all that kind of stuff. And then OPEX, which is kind of just software, right? And yeah, that's basically the game, guys. This is how you kind of scale in terms of unit economics, at least the front end of things. I'm going to talk about productization on the back end, which is a whole thing in itself. But on the front end, this is what you do to actually scale. And I'm not going to say this is what you need to do in 2024. This is just what you do, period. Like, this is what, Alex Hormozy did. This is what any of the guys who are at 8 figures or beyond have done. I've studied them both from afar, and I've actually spoken to some in person, spoken to people who are doing multi-7 figures in person. I've seen what the large agencies look like on the back end, and this is the same thing that they all follow and the same lessons that they have learned. And essentially, this is what I also help my clients do, even though my done for you service is basically lead gen. We'll book you calls. A lot of the times, people just don't understand that the elephant in the room is really the fact that your profit margins are not high enough in the first place to justify spending aggressively on ads. So, we can book you, 20, 50 calls a month, but if you're not profitable on the back end, then it doesn't really matter. So that's what I wanted to cover on this call, on this training. I hope you find that helpful. Let me know if you want to see more content like this in the future.